Hello, everybody. This is Bart Sharp, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5, broadcasting out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. But also, we are on the UPRN talkradio.com website, Roku, YouTube, Facebook, and other internet platforms out there. And today, it's like we're recording this on Monday. Show's usually on Wednesday, and in between is Mary Magdalene's feast day. So we're going to have this kind of like sandwich effect with that. And of course, for me, I am in France, and this means tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I will be wearing white. Mainly because my friend said you need to wear white to be kind of appropriate. I'm not that. I don't. Maybe guys don't really pay attention to that stuff. But anyway, I'll be wearing white like everybody else, going up the procession to um, the church at Renly Chateau.
Oh,
And yeah, it'll be fun. I know you are itching to do that.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
and so we'll go to this mystical, magical, historical place and begin the feast day and the procession with a mass, a talk, and then a concert with Annie Williams. And the end of the day at the restaurant Jardin Marie with a hearty dinner. What a
Lovely.
day. Yeah, and a few power spots in between that because we can't fit it all in. So it's going to be like a big spiritual day
Oh, I'm
at
so
Renly
jealous. I was
Chateau.
going to be there.
Yeah, yeah, but we're gonna pass by the bookstore and we'll see you there because we'll see your book in the window. That would
Yay.
be Woman in Red, Magdalene Speaks. And just to let everybody know, in case you don't know, we have Krishna Rose on the show, a frequent guest of mine on the show. And welcome, Krishna.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Happy to see everyone.
It's so right that you're here because you have a dedication to Mary Magdalene that uh, we won't say equals, no one equals to, because there's lots of passionate people about Mary Magdalene,
Yes.
but you have one of the most detailed novels. I would call it an epic novel because epics really tell you the times and tell you much more than a story, but more the landscape of what how everything happened in that period of history. And I
Yes.
always see that Woman in Red, Magdalene Speaks, is an epic novel. For everybody out there who hasn't read it, it's a good one.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, yeah. And so today, we've done historical shows and told some great stories and explored, but we just want to take it to the present because if there's anything for this date of now, uh, I think a lot of people are leaning into Mary Magdalene more than ever.
I
And
agree.
yeah, yeah. And so the show's theme today is going to be how do we take these teachings and principles and what we know about her and apply them to today's modern life?
Yes. Great subject. That's the best subject matter for me to get my teeth into. So, spiritual teachings are timeless. Just because they were spoken 2000 years ago doesn't mean they're not relevant today. Because the struggle of human existence and death and reincarnation and problems that come due to karmas are the same whether it was 2000 years ago or now. They're just different types of problems, but they're still problems. And Mary Magdalene's gospel, she taught us the way. She taught us how to. First, we have to enter into the climate of devotion, of bhakti yoga, the yoga of connecting to the divine with bhakti, which means devotion.
Mm,
Devotion that she describes in her gospel as the place where the soul and the consciousness meet. So this place is like a liminal place. It's an in-between place. It's the place between life and death. It's the place of desperation, where the soul is begging in a very repentant and humble way the divine to give mercy and to lead the way out of ignorance, to lead the way out of one's darkness. So Mary Magdalene's gospel, she describes that there are 7 such chains, and these are the 7 layers of hell that are described in great detail within my book, Woman in Red, Magdalene Speaks. So here, the first manifestation she speaks of is darkness. The second is craving. The third is ignorance. The fourth, lethal jealousy. The fifth is enslavement to the body. The sixth is intoxicated wisdom. And the seventh is guileful wisdom. So each of these are oppressing our soul's advancement. So they must be given up.
Mm.
So she now says, that which oppressed me has now been slain. That which encircled me has now vanished. My craving has faded, and I am freed from my ignorance. So how has she done this? How did she magically, after showing us that there's these 7 layers of ignorance that tie us to suffering and struggling and prevent us from entering into the kingdom? So they all have to be given up. So what's the process? Here, she gives it. This gospel is perfection. It's a very small gospel, but within it is everything that we need to
So,
advance and to attain the goal that Jesus Christ spoke of.
and
Sorry,
this
Bart.
is this is in the back of your book. I mean, just to give people some reference and resource as we talk, and they may want to go, well, how the heck do I find this? I want to read this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make things practical.
Thank you. Yes. So, Mary Magdalene's gospel is practical. It's practical advice for our modern age. So, as she rises during this time, so many people are fascinated with Mary Magdalene, and it's a wonderful reawakening of her energy, of her life, and of her times and her ways. And what really struck me whilst writing their story, writing their book, was their ways.
Hmm.
They lived, they lived the way. They
Yeah.
weren't pretenders. They weren't the pretenders wearing the fancy robes, the fancy cloths with the fancy hats, the cardinals. They weren't these people who were shouting from the rooftops that they are the leaders of Christ's church and mission. It was the ones who were wearing days old cloth. They only had one cloth that they possessed because they gave everything up for God and for devotion. They only ate, one small meal a day. They gave up their hunger for their devotion. They gave up their time for their devotion. And so here, Mary Magdalene, in the next passage, I just want to share this because it's utterly profound. She
Mm.
says, I left the world with the aid of another world. A design was erased by virtue of a higher design. This is this is epic. This is everything that we need to know in 3 sentences. It's so utterly exciting
So
because,
let's say those again because they
yes,
are so profound.
they are so profound. These 3 lines excite me just about more than anything else. So she says, I left the world with the aid of another world. So what's she talking about here? Let's break this down. I left the world that externally we engage with, the world that we are told from birth that this is our pleasure zone. Everything is ours to enjoy. Have everything you want, taste everything you want, do anything you want. And this is how we become attached to illusions. So here she says, in order to leave the world of illusions, which are the seven layers that are preventing our soul from entering the kingdom and advancing and liberating ourselves from suffering, she's saying, with the aid of another world, implying with the aid of the kingdom, with the aid of God's kingdom, I left the other world. So what she's implying is the path is first you enter the kingdom, and automatically everything else of the world will fall away. No attachments will be left. All seven layers undone in an instant. So the goal, so she says, henceforth I travel towards repose where time rests in eternity. Because repose implies rest, shelter from the storm, shelter from the heavy waves of materialism, of mundane existence, or boredom, tasteless experiences, things that don't satisfy, can't satisfy the soul. And this is the path of Mary Magdalene. This is why I'm so excited about her teachings, because she's reigniting, she's reaffirming for us the path of bhakti yoga, which is a modern day kirtan experience, has become a very modern thing. Bhakti is now very fashionable in yoga circles because we sing the names of God and instantly we're connected to the divine. It's a process by which we can develop our love for God and Goddess. And it's also simultaneously the side effect of God's holy names is that it hits us like a thunderbolt in the heart and in the mind, and it breaks all of our illusions, and it breaks open the hard heart that doesn't know how to love, doesn't know how to seek him, doesn't know how to go within. And so Mary Magdalene here, she's saying, we must go within and let go of all of our external pullings in order to attain the kingdom. So,
So, so,
this
so,
is why she lived in a cave.
well, yeah, it has some time to really be internal because when
Yes.
you do this, a bhakti yoga, or there may be other tools, but maybe what they have in common is, well, maybe I just ought to ask you, how do they feel when you do them?
Well, the practice of bhakti yoga means that you are practicing devotion. So, in the Catholic Church, one practices devotion with one's rosary, with the repetition of the rosary
Hmm.
prayer. If you're a Christian, then I recommend that people start chanting Jesu Maria over and over on a bead and just practice chanting their names in order to invoke the deity, their personalities, their mercy, their grace, and everything that is there available to them. I personally chant the Maha Mantra, which comes from India, the Hare Krishna mantra, because I like this mantra because it's got both God and Goddess in it.
Mm,
And these are eternal mantras that were passed down for the last 100,000 years. This is the Maha Mantra, which means the greatest of all mantras. Why? Because it reveals the kingdom. Directly,
yeah.
God's name can give you the kingdom. So this is the practice. This is why Jesus said, hallowed be thy name in the first line of the Lord's Prayer, because he was showing this is the way, hallowed be thy name. So this
So,
practice of bhakti can be practiced, it can be practiced. Let me finish just one
no,
second.
no, no, you go ahead.
It can be practiced by anyone from any religion. Bhakti yoga doesn't mean that you are now following a specific path from India or anything. Bhakti means devotion, and Jesus and Mary Magdalene embodied and led the way in this practice of devotion in a very practical way. It's not sentimental.
Yeah, yeah. If you ever think that Jesus or Mary Magdalene or Mother Mary were just bestowed with this, I mean, they probably grew up very talented, had
Yes.
maybe, a lot of different helping reincarnated spirits coming in, etc. And at the same time, they had a very big job for the time being, and they
Yes.
had to practice constantly. uh,
Yes.
it's so true. Just to clarify, as we go back to the seven, uh, getting off the path, I can't remember how you said it. You said it much more correctly than I
Well, the
will.
seven hells, they're
The
basically
seven
seven,
nails.
there's seven
Yes.
veils,
So,
but
so
in my book they're called seven hells.
yeah, yeah. And so when we stay in a higher state, I want to just confirm this, or maybe you uh, extend on it, that when we start to get into these higher states, these different hells, we start our habits or actions or how we walk in the world. When we make those misturns, so to speak, they become more obvious to us. We start to see that there's that it doesn't match up with the path that we've been doing with all the mantras. It
Yes.
reflects onto us. It may even confront us,
Yes.
and that's part of how that works. Because I think we continually make the same mistakes over and over again
Yes.
until we see what it is.
Actually, it's even, yes, until we see what it is, but even then we can't give up our lower nature. Even if you see your habit and you acknowledge that you have it, you still can't give it up. Why? So here, Mary Magdalene, again in that passage, we'll go back to that. She's saying, with the help of the higher world, you can give up everything of the lower world. So, how do we attain and achieve the higher world? And what is that higher world? So, Jesus
Yes.
Christ crucified himself so that the story and the teachings of the kingdom, that the path to the holy kingdom internally would always be made available for seekers, and his story spanned the centuries, and people still today, they love Jesus Christ, but they don't take to the practices because they're not being exemplified by our modern day churches. So
Yeah. They're more esoteric, and whereas this path you talk about is more mystical, you're feeling the vibration
practical.
and going into an energy that changes your inner workings, so to speak. And
Exactly.
that's why I say mystical. And most people are taught an esoteric strategy,
Mm.
stories, you know, verbiage.
Yeah,
I kind of
it's
see.
it's a great privilege to speak God's holy name, to meditate on a mantra. So let me explain. Mantra is an ancient Sanskrit term which is broken into two. Man means the mind, your consciousness. Tra means to transcend. So a mantra is used to transcend your mind, and therefore all of your seven lower natures. Hallowed be
Mm,
thy name. So, this practice of bhakti yoga, this connecting to God through the practice of the repetition of holy name, what it does is the first thing that you experience is purification. Exactly what you were saying. You get faced with your sins, with your habits, with your bad behaviors, the parts of you that you don't like, that you hide from people, that you pretend don't exist because you're this perfect person. And this is where the ego gets involved. We lose ourselves with that disconnect, because then you're presenting one side of yourself to the public, but you have this other side. So now there's some duplicity that has to be given up. In order to authentically walk this path, we have to be willing to face our demons, as Mary Magdalene does within my epic book. So the story is that all of us must face these seven layers of ourselves and unchain ourselves, and the work is done within the practice of chanting of mantra. The mantra lifts us because God's power is unfathomable. It has no end. It can achieve anything. So,
Mm.
hallowed be thy name. When you speak God's name into the ether and into your heart, it reverberates, and the frequency of God's divine love enters into you, and the kingdom is made available to you. And this is the practice that we all must do if we truly wish to follow the path that Magdalene and Jesus Christ laid out for us. It is an actual practical way of elevating yourself out of the quagmire of this world and
Yeah.
internally realizing yourself within the eternal spiritual body that is your inherent self. And that is actually something that needs to be awoken within your practices.
Yeah, it reminds me of a book I read 25 years ago, or maybe longer. Let's not share any age issues here. Um, Am I Hindu? And it
Mm,
was basically a primer to Hinduism. But one of the things they brought up was about mantras. He goes, well, you can say a lot of different things, but
mm,
and they will change you. You could say, as they said in the book, Coca-Cola, and it start changing your frequency
mm.
to the vibration of whatever Coca-Cola is. Somehow
Yeah.
it'd probably be an improvement over your egotistical mind that had all of these programmings of your transgressions and your, wounded childhood and all of that stuff that have
Mhm.
all of these cycles running in you. However,
Yes.
when you do something like Om Mani Padme Hum,
Hmm.
that's a popular one in Tibetanism, or Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me,
Mm.
uh, have higher frequencies, and therefore we start to change inner vibration. Um, and to me, that's a huge concept for everybody to really question to themselves. It's like, what is your mind doing to be in communion with your body, and is it working in a higher frequency? Because
Your body and your mind were given to you at the time of your creation for a very specific purpose. And that purpose is exactly what Mary Magdalene is laying out in her gospel. And it's the same thing that every saint and every prophet has told us. We must use this life, this time, this body, this mind, this grail consciousness that we have been gifted with. We must utilize it to go within with hallowed be thy name, with mantra. And with the mantra, the holy name naturally cleanses and prepares us to witness the divine.
yeah, it's
And
so
then, if you're very lucky, as you go into these practices, you will get darshan, you will have visions of the Holy Kingdom. And this is what Jesus Christ laid out for us. If we're not having visions of the kingdom when we're meditating, we have a very long way to go and we need to find our way. It is not, spiritual life is not sentimental, it has to be a practical application.
it does. And when you're in the fast-paced world of internet, working in a
Mm,
corporation, and all of these things,
mm,
and you have all of these energies swirling around. Like I was a school teacher, worked with multi-handicap.
mm.
When my girlfriend says, when you leave the house, your whole body changes.
Yeah.
And then she met my students and said, "Oh, I understand. They're all traumatized." And I go, "Yeah, I work in a trauma zone. I thought you knew that about me."
Mm,
So we go into these places, and this is where these mantras, or remembering the vibration that happens inside of you when you
mm,
say them, because a mantra might be too complicated with you when you're listening to somebody, but you
mm,
can turn on that energy, and it gives you something. It gives you a retraining, because
mhm,
I think we're triggered all the time with our workplace, our relationships, uh, and we want to go back into old patterns because everybody's kind of, or a lot of people are at that frequency.
mhm.
They're not doing hallowed be thy name.
I mean, the problem is if you don't have a practical application to your spiritual devotion, to your life, then
Hmm.
you're not working on the deep roots of these dysfunctions.
Yeah.
It is God's love and mercy that descends when we do our practices, that
Hmm.
dissolves the roots of these lower natures,
So
just as a side effect.
I'd like to say that in a different way. You are connected.
Yes, you're instantly connected, and by that grace, that mercy that descends into you, it is their grace that then dissolves these roots. So
Yeah.
again, if people really wish to know Mary Magdalene and follow Mary Magdalene, she taught by example how we should live devotedly.
Yeah.
She didn't just preach, she practiced and she led the way, where she gave up all of the trappings of her wealth. She was a princess. She had beautiful gowns. She owned a village of Bethany. They inherited the entire village of Bethany. They were
Oh,
very, very wealthy. And Mary Magdalene gave all of that up to lead the way, that we are not these bodies, we are not our clothes, we are not what we present ourselves as, we are not the masks that we wear. So society during her time frowned upon a woman if they wore their hair loose, like me.
yeah.
And she refused to tie her hair back on principle, because she was leading by example, showing that bhakti, spiritual love and devotion, has nothing to do with the outside world. It's an
Yeah.
internal state that
Yeah.
we must seek and find and attain and then embody.
And she was literally on the road. I mean, I
She
can't
led the
remember.
way. She's the
Yeah, yeah.
lighthouse.
And I can't think of the rock and roll song called "On the Road Again." It's by Traffic. They say "On the Road Again," but she
Mm-hmm.
was literally traveling all of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
in those days, there was no practicality that you could take your wealth with you. You
No, very
couldn't do it.
difficult. Very
No,
difficult.
you might have a few souvenirs, but
Yeah.
uh, you had very little that you could carry, and she
Yeah.
really didn't need it because the commitment was very different
Yeah.
for then and now. Uh,
Mm.
I just keep thinking about this, that to go back to the workplace, the deeper that you go into your traumas and you rectify them, and a lot of times if you are in peace inside of yourself and you are confronted with an issue that maybe would trigger you to regress to old behaviors you've been
Yeah.
doing,
Mm.
and suddenly they get resolved because suddenly you have the clarity to see that you never
Yeah.
saw before.
Yeah.
And guess what, folks? It'll go deeper. In other words, your spirituality will go deeper, but also as we go up these 7 levels of hell, they'll get more complex, but you'll get more freedom. And that's a lot how this whole this whole thing works.
That's exactly it. You laid it out perfectly. And that literally sums up Mary Magdalene's message to all of
Indeed.
us, is we have to go through these 7 layers of ourselves and unchain ourselves from all of these illusions, let go of the false self and the self that always wants pleasure for self. It's all about me, what I want. From the minute I wake up, it's all about what I want. I want a cup of coffee. I want to go shopping. I want to do this. I want to do that. Now I'm going to go on Amazon. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do that. And it's all about what the ego is driving the body all day long. And it's only when you subscribe yourself to a spiritual practice like chanting mantra that it all comes to a screeching halt. Your illusions just fall away, and all of a sudden you find that you want to spend more time absorbed in your chanting practices and prayer practices than absorbing in the external world.
It,
And that's a beautiful place to be. That's why Mary
it
Magdalene
is.
went to the cave.
And when you start to get this in your life and you start to feel how good it feels, because it does
Mm-hmm.
when you walk away and you do your You do these big workshops where you're doing it for long periods of time, and then you do it in your daily routines. Suddenly, when you wake up in the morning, you start to realize that it's your most favorite activity because it feels better than just about anything that you do. And
Yes.
then it opens you up to another world. And I don't think I'm ever going to live in the cave like Mary Magdalene did, though I do spend some 24-hour periods in caves, particularly in France. Seriously.
Lovely. Lucky
Oh yeah,
you.
like Rotterdam, Bethlehem, and also one of the caves of Mary Magdalene, the Star Cave. That's on my list for July, August. Anyway, you get into this. It becomes bigger than your ego. And it's that where you start to peek over to the other side. So we just say this, everybody. If this seems to be too much, practice and include it, and it will grow, just like a seed in the ground. And
Yes,
we're at midpoint. So I just want to say that you're with Krishna Rose, author of Woman in Red, Magdalene Speaks. You can find her uh, books and stuff on krishnarose.com. And I forgot to put the banner out, but also you have a YouTube channel, Krishna Rose.
yes.
And also, my name is Bart Sharp, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5 out in New Orleans, Louisiana. So, yeah. So, where did we go now? I mean, we've been pretty intense for this first 30 minutes.
It's been pretty
Um,
intense. I mean, we could since we spoke about the seven layers of hell, perhaps we should end by describing seven layers of heaven, and lay out the path a little more clearly here, if that's
Wonderful.
okay.
I'm glad you're taking the horns.
So once you free yourself from these seven layers of hell, seven layers of godly, heavenly virtues, qualities naturally descend into your consciousness, into your body, into your mind. You become filled with holiness. You become filled with inspiration. And these seven heavens are like the seven virtues that we chase. When we give up lower nature, we attain a higher nature. This is what Mary Magdalene's describing. We go for the higher thing, and the lower thing will fall away just
Hmm.
by virtue of its design. So, unfortunately, there's been a lot of confusion within the Bible and within Christianity and Judaism and even within Islam, about the path to the kingdom and what the holy kingdom is. Is heaven the kingdom, or is the kingdom and heaven? So there's some discrepancies there, because Jesus very clearly has delineated that heaven, and Mary Magdalene also in her gospel describes heaven as a temporary heavenly place.
Hmm.
So heaven, these heavenly planets as laid out within the ancient Vedic scriptures, which I've studied, they're wonderful descriptions of creation, in a very complete way, such as I've never seen in any other scriptures around the world. But within these scriptures, it describes that these seven heavens, they are not eternal planets. They're wonderful places to go visit, but you do not enter the kingdom from there. The only place you can attain the kingdom from is this earth planet. You
Hmm.
have to have flesh, the flesh suit, and the consciousness, and the karma, and the tests, and the giving up. You have to show by practical example to God and Goddess that I repentantly approach your altar of the kingdom, and I give up all desire for all heavenly pleasure, which are only for pleasures for myself. You're not even there in those heavens. You're in the kingdom. So I
Yeah.
want to give up all desire for heavenly pleasures, because heavenly pleasures implies selfishness. Like, for example, some things within Islam are quite controversial. You know, they say that, you know, if you do jihad, you can die and go to heaven and have sex with however many thousands of virgins there are. So, for the sake of having sex with thousands of virgins, they're willing to kill people and sacrifice people. It's the ultimate selfishness. And in so called spirituality, and this is what she describes as guileful wisdom that must be given up.
Yeah.
We cannot use spiritual life in that way. We cannot bend the rules. Thou
Well,
shalt not kill means thou shalt not kill, and it exists within every religion. So
and
if we
and
don't follow these rules, then we're not following our religion correctly.
and also just as some of the other religions, there this is all about doing things,
Mm,
as opposed to there's something in your being that vibrates at these highest frequencies. Now, if
yes.
you're vibrating at those highest frequencies, what would you do? I mean, the most obvious thing is you might help other people or be
Yes.
kinder to people, but also you might just be loving the ecstasy of being in that highest place in a human body.
Well, this is where we witness the saints. If we look at the example of the saints who came before us from all religions, we see that they had the practical application. Some of them would remain in secrecy, in privacy, but still they'd be revered as saints and known even still today as saints. And then there were others who went out into the world and preached, like Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. So it's up to us. It's what Holy Spirit, how Holy Spirit moves us, how the kingdom moves us is going to be individual to each of us. But one thing is certain: we will feel a natural desire to serve in some way.
Mm.
If there is no service mood coming in some way, then we are not activated from that kingdom. That
That's a good
kingdom
that
and that service, Bart, is not something that has a monetary attachment from the flip side of it. Service
yeah,
means I give this freely unto all without any desire for remuneration or name and fame or anything in return.
yeah. And I think this is a really important distinction we should look at in our spiritual teachers and and we see a lot of spiritual teachers that you really get it. Well, they they're not committed to the place that they give up to serve at that level. They may
Yeah.
have high powered concepts and
Mm.
teach us a great deal, and we benefit from them,
Hmm.
but there's lots more. To me, you start to go into a reality of nothingness, where
Yes.
it's oneness,
Mm.
and a kindness generates out of you that is pretty cool. Uh, so that's what I'm always asking for people that I think are distinctions because I'm kind of a non-religious person, but yet
Yeah.
I see spiritual teachers out there
Mm.
teaching a lot of the same things you are,
Hmm.
and that's where I make my distinction.
Yeah,
It's
I think the thing is, um, if you're wanting something in exchange for what you're giving, then you're a teacher. You're not a guru.
yeah.
A holy
Mm.
master wants nothing in return but to inspire and to uplift. And I saw this in the example of my own holy master, and I also saw it in Jesus Christ. And the mercy that they give it freely to all because they know that everyone is suffering.
Mm.
And that mercy should be given freely. It shouldn't be held for only those who can afford to pay money to participate.
So to clarify this a little bit, no matter what anybody had done in their eyes, they would not judge them, no matter
No,
what they did.
I don't think that anybody should judge or not judge. You just have to
Yeah,
understand to what level
yeah,
and what degree of teaching you're going to attain with somebody.
right, right, right.
Because somebody's giving freely from the kingdom like Jesus did. There's no remuneration. There's no dollar amount that can be given in exchange for
Yeah,
love for God. Love for
yeah,
God is given freely.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like as you see this, and as I listen and speak with you, what do we want people to get out of this?
Mm,
At least in my guesstimation with you, I know you a bit, is that you want people to walk away and go, gee, I got some tools to practice with that maybe I can become a lighter body. And we just look at them like, go get them, tiger or tigeress or whatever. We love you.
definitely.
You know, I put it in simple,
Yeah, definitely. That
uh,
would be my deepest wish. And somebody asked me actually this morning, someone asked me, how should I spend the day on Mary Magdalene's feast day?
I've been wanting to ask you that question.
It's a great question. And I said, all day absorbed in chanting of holy name, with
Hmm.
great repentant reverence, fasting, all day prayerful chanting of holy name. Advance your soul and do the practical application that she so sacrificed so much for, as did he. And if we're not applying this level of devotion in a practical way, then we are not truly following, nor can we help anyone.
We're
First,
kind
we
of,
have to save ourselves, and then we can help others.
I say it as we're missing an opportunity because let's just I want to ask you, when you spend a whole day
Mm.
doing chanting and such,
Yeah.
how does it change you?
Oh, it changes everything. You don't feel the heaviness of life. The divine lifts you up in the name, and everything else falls away. And then the divine bliss slowly starts to enter you, but you're not doing it for the bliss. You're doing it because you want to forge a loving service relationship to the divine. So you have to go beyond wanting the pleasure of bliss. You have to go beyond that, because even that is a
Hmm.
trap. That is, I want something from God. We have to give that up even to enter the kingdom. We have to come with such a humble, repentant mood. And this was, for me, the example Mary Magdalene has shown. And this is how I spend my time when I pray. It's in a very repentant, in a very begging way, begging for mercy, begging for entrance into the kingdom, begging for a vision of the Lord, begging to be worthy of a vision of the Lord and Our Lady. And so what happens in this process is all of these lower natures just naturally fall away. You're no longer interested in doing the same habitual things that you've always done your whole life. You want to spend more time absorbed in prayer and chanting and remembrance, whether it's reading Holy Scripture or hearing from people that are remembering Holy Scripture. And gradually, we unglue ourselves from the illusory world, and we are allowed entrance into the eternal world, which is within. The kingdom of God is not a planet outside of us. It is a planet, but it exists within us. And
Hmm.
all of creation, even though it's outside of us, is within us.
Hmm.
So this is our duty, our call, our grail quest is to take to these practices and go within and undo all of these things that cause us to suffer, that drag us around day by day into experiences that are most unsatisfying. Instead, drag yourself into practices that take you out of that quagmire and lift you up. And the side effect is I feel very happy. I feel quite a lot of bliss. I feel like I'm advancing and I'm living how I'm meant to be living. And that
Mm.
brings great satisfaction. I don't feel spiritual guilt because I'm using my time and I'm giving up my time for my practices every day. And if you can give up sleep, it's very hard to do practices during the day. But if you can wake up in the middle of the night and give up your sleep for a couple of hours and try it, that is where the real crucible work happens, because you really have to dedicate yourself to do that. But if you do, there's an enormous amount of mercy and advancement that can happen. So the
Yeah.
nighttime is a very special time for meditation. So even though we're attached to our sleep, sleep really doesn't do anything. Chanting gets us somewhere.
Well, it certainly energizes us. I think of that when I get up early in the morning and happen to meditate or do art. Uh, but I
Mm.
always feel like I'm kind of disconnected from the matrix, and also
Yes.
I'm about my paranormal nervous system is more active and it's been relaxed and it's been renourished. So
Yes.
so I get that additional power coming in when I do spiritual work.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to ask you a question because there's
Yes.
uh, we talk about this highest place.
Mm.
You always been pointing to your heart. So uh, two questions. Have you gotten a glimpse of what that is and what does that feel like? And as I read stuff about Sophia, she refers to an energy called the Christos, which would be a Christ within, or a, I guess our highest frequency that everybody has, at least according to some of the stuff I read about from Sophia's writings. I just wondered, can you comment on that?
Okay, what was the first part of the question?
What does it feel like, or what type of glimpse if you
Oh,
got into that
yes.
that reality? Can you
Okay.
give us a description?
Yes. So, I can only share as much as I myself have experienced, but the saints, they describe this path much more in a much more detailed way than I myself have experienced. But to give an example, at the time of chanting, you might feel suddenly a shift in consciousness where you hear the sound of water flowing like a waterfall, a stream. You might hear very sweet birds singing. You might hear sweet sounds of nature that drip like honey on your mind.
Mhm.
And you know that you're experiencing the ineffable, the kingdom. There's an awakening, a splendorous, blissful, unhinged, naked experience of self within eternity.
Mm.
Then I've never gone further than that. That's as far as I've gone.
That's
But
really wonderful.
but 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 beyond that is the development of your eternal spiritual body, and that happens within practices. And then your body animates within the eternal world, and within that eternal body you then have relationships with all of the people that live within eternity. And then those are your eternal family and friends. And this is
Mm.
why we suffer, because we all have to say goodbye to our loved ones. So eternal life is very important because it's the only way we're going to end this suffering forever. And we want to have eternal relationships. So we must seek these eternal relationships. And they are found inside. The
Yeah.
kingdom is within, is this realization. So yeah, it's a very, it's like taking off the hat, the baseball cap of your ego, laying it down, taking it off, and putting on a very large sombrero hat that completely shields you from the external world and allows you to enter into the magic of the internal
Mm.
world.
And to add to that, the more that you evolve and you become a higher light, you influence those that everybody around you. Now
Absolutely.
they have to make their own choices, but I always think that, well, this is something that I do to help everybody around me by being larger in myself,
Lovely.
and committing to that, uh,
It's your
and
service. It's your service
yeah,
to humanity to have these kinds of conversations that uplift people who are listening in, who give people an opportunity to rethink their life and commit to a
yes,
spiritual practice of some sort. And it's a beautiful gift to offer this to humanity. So praise
and
be to God. Praises to you, Bart, for doing it. It's wonderful.
well, we're always working at it
Yeah.
and doing it for a lot of different reasons. Uh,
Mm.
it's one of the reasons I host the show is that I can get
Yes.
people like you on it, uh, to open other people up. It's just chain reactions, and I love it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and when we think
And
about
thank
somebody
you
like,
for giving a platform to people like
oh,
myself, who
oh,
have something to share. And I'm always very grateful for these opportunities. And, I'm not leading people to join me because I want people's money. I'm not trying to get anything out of this.
yeah,
I
well,
just want to help. I want to inspire, and I want to give the mercy that I've been given to others.
we all have products out there that
Hmm.
because we need to pay rent and buy food and various things like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and you've paid a lot of dues in getting that book out
Thank you.
because there's a tremendous amount of diligence and work and dedication to put out a 500-page book that
Yes.
covers so much information,
Hmm.
so much research, and then
Hmm.
a story, and then stepping it and transferring it into kind of a spiritual transformation that happens with the reader. All of those elements are there. Uh, so it's all a
Thank you
good
for
thing.
recognizing that, Bart.
Oh,
Thank you for
sure.
recognizing that, because
Salutes.
I've always felt like my book, the goal of my book, the goal of Mary Magdalene and this novel was to take people through a journey of themselves where they could, at the end of it, liberate themselves from these things. And that's what the
Yeah.
book is about. It's a journey of self. And many people, after reading my book, feel like they are Mary Magdalene reincarnated. I've had a lot of people say that they are Mary Magdalene after reading my book. So,
It's funny how my relationship with it been her, but I always felt like, you know, 11 years that I've been going to France,
mm,
because her presence is here, but the presence of the land is very similar to Mary Magdalene.
yeah,
Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, but I always see her as every woman. You know,
love that.
she as we say, she was on the road again. She took it to the streets and she
Mm,
practiced and she worked and she lived a long life doing
yes,
all of this stuff, and she never got acknowledged. She was forgotten, and
kind
yet
of.
she didn't stop.
No.
And that was a huge internal curiosity on her point
Mm,
about knowing, well, what is beyond this. uh,
yes.
and I really believe she found it.
And she
Uh,
taught by example. She
yes,
is the guru. She showed by example, this is the way. Give it
yes,
all up.
yes,
Everything external has to be given up.
indeed.
We
And
can't take
so,
any of it with us when we die.
exactly. And we're coming to the end of the show, and I wanted to see, are there any projects or anything that you want to share with everybody that you're doing?
Well, my YouTube channel, my Krishna Rose YouTube channel, I'm actually going to be doing an illumination of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene in a series. I just released video number one yesterday,
Yay.
and that's something I'm really excited about, because I get to break down her gospel and really explain more of the meat and potatoes of how to practically apply the things that she's talking about. So that's something that I'll be doing over the next couple of months. So please do join me on my Krishna Rose YouTube channel. All of my videos are there, and I just share whatever inspiration comes through me. I film it to share with everybody in the hope that even one soul will be moved, transformed, and touched.
And this would be Krishna Rose YouTube. And you have
Yes.
krishnarose.com. And
Yes,
we have
that's
the
my
book,
website.
uh,
Yes.
Woman in Red.
Woman in Red,
Uh,
Magdalene Speaks. Yes.
yes, yes. All
And
right.
that's
So,
available as an audio book, an e-book, and a physical hard copy book. You can get it anywhere online, but I recommend Amazon. And it will definitely change your life. It's not a book that you'll ever forget once you read it. I think it'll be something that stays with you forever.
yeah, indeed. So we're coming down to the end of the show. Think about a 30-second message you'd like to give everybody. As you think about that, I want to let everybody know this is Krishna Rose, author of Woman in Red. My name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious, and you are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5 FM out of New Orleans, Louisiana. Next week, we will have Anna Otero, who is an amazing, and it'll be a great show. All I can tell you. I'm not for sure where she's going to take it. She's a very multi-talented woman, so uh, we will see. So, what would you like to end the show with, Krishna?
So immediately I got the message that just as Jesus Christ resurrected himself from death, Mary Magdalene is teaching us to resurrect ourselves from death and reincarnation forever, that we should enter eternity and end our suffering, which death is the ultimate suffering for all of us because we all have to say goodbye. We must end death forever if we wish to achieve this goal. So that's my prayer. My wish is that we can all resurrect ourselves and find our way into the eternal kingdom.
All right. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show, Krishna. And
Thank
we'll
you for
see.
having me, Bart. Bless you.
You're welcome. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Bye bye.